So I'm going to open up 2 menus here. This is the tweak menu for the sculpture. I'm going to put this over on the right side of the screen, and then the tweak menu for the painting. Sorry, but tweak menu for the sculpture on the left side, painting on the right.
Quick question.
Yes.
So referring to this image that you just suggested we bring up.
Yes.
Okay, so now I see tweak options, opacity, glow, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
All those things.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing represented in these panels here?
These panels all have, I'm going to move this a little bit to get it out of the way there. These panels have all of these different categories, and we're going to look at some of these categories. We're not going to look at all of them right now. Cool. But starting to go through from left to right, we have the sculpture has outer properties, which is actually the first 3 on our graph are part of outer properties. Mm-hmm. And so that's not quite consistent with it being the tab up here.
Totally, no,
but
that's cool. Yeah.
We'll look down here. Yeah. So opacity, there is no opacity option for the sculpture. There is an opacity option over here for the painting. And if I take this down, you can see the painting fades away and it comes back in. So that's the first important thing. Glow is an option for both of them. We can turn up the glow here. It gets really bright and turn it back down.
Takes a second to catch up.
It does. We have the same.
The glow looks grayed out for the painting.
I'm not sure why that is grayed out right now, but it does in fact affect it. That might just be a beta thing. For both of them, we have the same option of emit light from glow, and when we go over to sculpture, we have an option for cast shadows. Oh, a question?
Yeah, sorry. So you have the option to emit light for glow?
So
Can you glow without emitting light?
So that's glowing without emitting light, and if we turn that on, okay, well, it might not be working where it's grayed out. Let's try it over here on the sculpture. It is emitting light when visible. You can say never. To be honest, I'm not seeing a change right here.
It takes a second to catch up.
Oh, okay.
It's the same as before. So now the cube is glowing, but
it's not really projecting light.
It illuminate anything else, which happens to be the painting. So it's glowing, but it's not actually lighting anything else.
So
that's very handy.
This is very handy. You may want a character, for instance, to have glowing eyes that don't actually illuminate the rest of the character's face. You might want to make a light bulb and have it emit light. And there you can see it filling in how it's lighting that piece.
Can you animate that sort of thing? Am I jumping the gun by questioning?
Yeah, you can animate that, and that's probably a whole other tutorial, but just quickly, there is an input tab here on the glow. There's also an output tab. So that's all logic stuff, and we're not going to work on that right now because this is really just the very basics of tweak menus, but that is...
I see those,
Yeah, so you can animate that. You could put this on a timer or something and have it pulse. There's all sorts of things. Cast shadows. It's an option for the sculpture. It's not an option for the painting. Right. So we're going to move on. I'm actually going to do some options that are not on our chart. I'm going to look at the Fleck properties.
Oh, nice.
Those are options for both of these, and I'm going to get a little closer here. Now I'll be able to show how the sculpture has these Fleck properties. It's a little bit different properties between the two, because the sculpture has a Fleck perspective option. But the first thing we'll look at is looseness. You can take this looseness slider and drag it all the way up like that, and then look what happens to that cube. And you can do that with the painting, and what happens is a little bit different on the painting than on the cube for the looseness. On the cube, Fleck perspective, if I bring this up, we actually don't see a lot happen right now because it's kind of a small sculpture, and the looseness is up. But if I turn everything back down to 0, if the looseness is down, but I start to bring the Fleck perspective up, you start to see the flecks without it changing the looseness. And this is something that you'll see more of a difference on a complex sculpture than just a cube.
I think
it's a little bit hard to see right there. And on any of these, you can hit triangle and it resets to default. So that's a good thing to have. Impasto is how much the flecks project kind of outward from their original position. So on the painting, if I crank the impasto up, you see them sort of stretching forward like that. And on the cube, if I bring impasto up, you don't see really anything happen right away. But if I start to bring the looseness up just a little bit, then that starts to happen more and more. And now they're standing way out.
With the looseness up, can you slide the impasto back down and up again?
Yeah, so now you can see them moving back and forth.
Oh.
And a little note here, if you're trying to make something that has fur on it, you're going to want to turn up the impasto a lot and the looseness a little bit. And let me just set these to defaults, and we'll have a quick little tangent here where I'll go into style mode. And for making a fur texture, I like the streaky texture. So we're going to make the cube streaky really quick. And this is how you make something like my panda or my bumblebee. And now if we go in here and we turn the impasto, just turn it all the way up completely. And now I'm going to use the directional buttons to very slowly increase the looseness, just a percentage at a time.
Are you just hovering the imp over?
Yeah, and I'm just
D-pad?
using the D-pad to go up. And as the impasto goes up, oops, I went too far, too quickly. You got to find that sweet spot where it looks like fur. And I'm having a little bit of a tracking issue, but if I back up to there, that's starting to look more like fur. So if you, I'm just backing up a bunch to put it back to where we had it before I showed how to make fur, but that's how you can make something that's really fuzzy.
Yeah.
Or you can get these, these Fleck changes. I'm going to put these all back to their defaults. Oh, I didn't show you the ruffle. The ruffle kind of twists all the flecks. And you can see that happening in the painting really easily. In the sculpt, you can turn the ruffle all the way up, and again, you won't see anything happen until you make it looser. But when you make it looser, and then you slide this back and forth, you can see the flecks changing a little bit. Okay. So these are just things when you want to kind of stylize something, you play with those menus. And the next thing to look at is duplicates. That is not an option for sculptures. It is an option for paintings. And this is where the direction of your brush stroke really makes a difference. I'm going to close the sculpture menu for a minute so we have a little more room here. When you're doing duplicates, this is how you can make things like weather effects, for instance. You can have clones that go all around the camera.
Goodness.
So if you made that painting into a weather effect, it's going around the camera. I'll turn that off. Johnny showed how to make a firework using the all directions rational duplicate. It goes from the starting point to the end point of the stroke. So the direction that I made this sweepy line is really important when you're doing rational duplicates, and you can go around a hemisphere or around a cylinder.
Rotational duplicates.
Sorry, rotational duplicates. I read that wrong.
Sorry.
So when you're making rotational duplicates, the direction of your paint stroke is important.
Nice. So when
from start to finish.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So it's going to read this as the beginning point.
Yep.
That's the end point. That's also in the stroke properties. You have your end point and your start point, and you can slide this back and forth, nice. And you can sort of adjust the length of your stroke.
And you can animate those.
Yes, that's the animation tab, which is a separate tab actually. Fleck density is just really quickly something you can do to kind of thin everything out if you want to. We'll move on to the animation tab. That's another one that is not an option for sculptures. There's no animate on sculptures. You can turn up the animation and you won't actually see anything until you go and you do a test play. You can do that in the menu up here. You can hit start time, or you can hit R3 as a shortcut. And now when that's playing, you can see that moving through, and then you can do a pulse, and that gives you this kind of an effect. You can adjust the trail length. This is really good for making things like rain or snow. If it's rain, you would laser blasts, you might want to turn it up really high. There's a lot you can do with the animation tab. But that is, again, something that is just inherent to paintings, and it's not an option for sculptures. So when you're planning ahead, that's something that you need to know about painting and sculptures. And let's, next thing we'll do is carry on to the effects and physical properties.